You guys ready to go over early Yu Hakusho scaling? Because in this video, we'll be breaking it down into two parts, because otherwise the video will be too long, covering how you get from peak human, someone like Goku, eating souls and smashing trees, to someone like Toguro, casually vaporizing demons stronger than this guy, passively with their aura, and completely nuking people with just the air pressure. Let's cover some scaling. So, starting with Goku, he will be my starting point, because this will be going from peak human into like the lowest of D class. Given that Goku is like the lowest of D class, and Yusuke should scale to peak human, given that he can hit harder, move faster, and take blows better than any peak human, as you'll see with these his fight with Goku and his strength and what he can do. We know that Yusuke is above even just your basic peak human, and that Goku would be pretty superhuman. So aside from just eating souls, we know that Goku, of course, can snap trees, smash trees no less, with his hands. He can shatter them with just his gripping strength. With all of these feats you'll be seeing, I will be calculating them to get general ideas of like how much force is in them, so I can cover potency. But that will be for a different video. This will be a generalized scaling so you can get it a concept. But this boy, think about it. His gripping strength is such that he can shatter trees as the lowest D class. Now, eventually Yusuke, of course, gets a spirit ring, he can power up, and he fights Goku again, where his punch still can't harm him, like, at all. And we talk about, like, his body being as hard as steel, knife can't cut it. And, like, we also see, not just with Goku snapping the tree, but Yusuke actually picking up that part of the tree and hitting Goku directly with it, and it does nothing, followed by Goku one-handing that same section of tree and smashing it across Yusuke's face, who is still alive somehow. This is what I'm talking about, like, just peak human in terms of, like, a basis for strength. And of course, he ends up taking him out with, like, a spirit gun to the mouth, because he couldn't kill him otherwise. What's important here is that he needed to actually shoot a spirit gun directly into his mouth, because he actually was so much weaker than Goku that even with the spirit ring increasing his spirit gun to such a degree, and a spirit gun already being at minimum 2 times the force of one of his punches, it still wouldn't have taken Goku out if it hit him, as a normal attack, like a normal hit. But he gets stronger. Yusuke, being a protagonist that he is, gets stronger and comes across Hiei, where, of course, initially he comes across some mind-controlled humans, and he shows that he can actually knock normal humans like meters away with simple punches. But Hiei is quite the step above Goku. I mean, Hiei himself says that he intended to kill Kurama and Goku, of all people, by the way. That he intended to kill them to get the treasures. But we also can just verbatim see in feats-wise that Hiei at least is miles above Goku. I'll stay away from Kurama here in the scaling to Hiei. However, Yusuke is quite confident until he goes to hit him, and Hiei shows that he's like an after image to him while just like strolling. Until, of course, 90s protagonists, this becomes, you have to realize this manga was in the 90s, early 90s, and this became a bit of a trope where the main character powers up off of their emotions. Yusuke's no different. He's one of the ones who started it. And he's very, like, it's used as a story plot for him, for, like, Togashi to showcase his growth. And he does it to astronomical proportions. So, he can't hit Hiei, casual Hiei, base casual Hiei, until he pisses him off, to where now he can keep up with him and hit Hiei no problem. Okay, well, he can keep up, so how much faster did he get, right? And maybe it was a fluke. The problem is, we can see that Hiei actually gets to where he's like, when your companions are forced into a corner, your powers are increased by many folds. We're talking about some magnitudes here of power. That should give you an idea on how much faster he's getting. And it's not like it's a fluke. Hiei actually goes in more serious this time. I don't suppose you can even catch my shadow, right? So he saw that, Yusuke was able to tag him, catch up to his speed in a split second. He's like, okay, so here's my real deal. And Yusuke casually just takes him out again. It's not a problem for Yusuke. And the thing is it's not until Hiei transforms into absolute full power, still a D class, mind you, the same class, like overall class as Goku, to where we see that he actually trades. Hiei is shown that he can take multiple hits from Yusuke, be fine, and he can sit there and trade blows and hit harder than Yusuke, and that he's faster than Yusuke until he actually gets pissed off, but then he transforms, right? He goes fully into demon mode and he starts beating the hell out of Yusuke until Kurama can help him. Well, it's not till he actually pisses him off again where he finally breaks out from, after seeing Kurama stab him and everything. And Yusuke, again getting pissed, powers up. And he is like unbelievable. Every time I see you escape, every time you escape, I see an increase in your raid power. You're too dangerous to have around. All my powers now. So he is wanting to go all out. The thing is that Yusuke is powered up twice by significant amounts. Now, if we want to talk about, is it exponential? We have to understand is that Hiei is FTE, faster than eye movement, or being able to track and reaction speeds of normal humans. We could use that as a basis. The problem is that he's actually FTE to base Yusuke when he goes to first fight Hiei. And we can get minimum load ball amounts to see what it would require for that. I know that there are calculations out there already, but again, this will be I will deep dive into this heavily to get the accurate numbers. Thing is for him to keep up suddenly and then amp himself multiple times over, you'll see how drastic these numbers actually get. That in many fights, he powers up many times, and yet this is still just D class. So they go back and forth, they're fighting, and Hiei is once again actually still too fast and too strong for Yusuke, even after he's powered up yet again, with Hiei going, as I've said, absolutely all out. And the thing is as we know, Yusuke is able to take him out with a spirit gun, which required him to almost surprise attack him, hitting him from behind when he was not expecting it, bouncing it off of a mirror. Now, something important to go over here is that with it bouncing off the mirror, you do see a statement here that's I decided to give it a shot. Who knows, it might reflect like a ray of light. A ray of light, it's, I'm not going to say that it is the speed of light or anything. If you've been here long enough, you know that I personally don't accept this as a good enough argument. But for people who are convinced by statements, this is just a beginning, like an interlude to something about the spirit gun being light speed. Another one is that it travels always in a straight line. It bounces off mirrors, and then there's others going forward. But another one, and I can show you the naming convention why it's called ray gun, which is the Japanese. It's not actually spirit gun in the actual Japanese. It's ray gun, and it's based off of an actual ray gun, which is light. But anyways, beyond that, we get to Genkai's tournament, where she tests people and their spirit energy to see if they're even qualified in the slightest to even begin her tournament, or, if they're eliminated or not. And the thing is you have Ray Masters, who are, of course, much beyond peak human, that are not strong enough in their own Ray energy, Ray Masters, right? They're not even strong enough to get past any real test. The paper can't even sense their energy enough. However, if you're talking about sensing energy, of course, at this point, he's trying to take out Rando. And Yusuke has a very specific, like, spirit world made device for reading spirit energy. Or demon energy in this case. And it blows up. Rando is on a whole different level. Now, going forward, we see that there are these games that measure spirit energy, or just Reiki overall, right? And what's important here is we get some numbers, we get an insight of some actual numbers. Now, at this point, in pure raw strength, is Yusuke, like, hitting harder than Goki? It might seem like he's not because, Hiei's not. We have no way to say that Hiei is stronger than Goki. Well, that's actually 1,000% false with how Yu Yu Hakusho scales. Hiei has magnitudes more energy in his attacks, that includes his punches, than Goki ever would. Now, as I go through this, you'll see how that matters in Yu Yu Hakusho. But even right here with the games, it measures your power based on your actual energy. Like, without power, without the spirit energy behind your attacks, you will not have any force, any real force. And that the amount of energy you have directly correlates into the amount of force you can produce. Yusuke got many folds more powerful against Hiei in just his first power-up. And he powered up likewise a second time, and Hiei still completely was able to take him out with a surprise attack, no less, but in one spirit gun. Which is, of course, at least double his punching strength. What I'm saying here is, Yusuke is quite obviously, now with his spirit energy to where it is, hitting much harder than Goki. But let's say that they're still pretty comparable, just to give, some ideas for when I really crunch the numbers. Kuabara is hitting at 129, and he's decently comparable to Yusuke. Yusuke hits it, and it's at 155, enough to actually impress Genkai. Now, the important thing here is, based on these numbers, Goki honestly shouldn't be hitting above something around 120. But let's say he's hitting as much as Kuabara here, just so we have proper scaling point. Even though, as I said, their energy is wildly above Goki's at this point. As we continue here, this is a device that measures specifically how much force you can apply, and you can tell the difference with spirit energy behind a punch versus not. You'll see this come up again. So he's 155 to Goki's maybe 129 at best. Realistically, not even matching up to 120. However, as we continue on, we see someone who hits 175. And we can also see that Kuabara has the best sensing prowess at this time, and continues to be the best sensor of power and energy across the board for the entirety of the series. And you'll see how impressive some of the sensing in Yu Yu Hakusho gets. Now, right from the bat, talking about sensing, we have the demonic forest that all the contestants who passed not just having enough ray energy behind their ability to get passed by the paper that already, ray masters couldn't do. But then we had people who were good enough to get past the machines that measured everyone against each other to get the, top of the top. Those people who weren't even considered good enough to, have good sensing ability, with just slight ray abilities, according to Genkai, they can sense the danger of this forest, and they run away. So if you want to see some sensing, you can see here with Genkai that she can easily sense someone up to 500 meters away, and I mean easily, as it shows, the closest one is 500 meters away, and if you can see those little blips, otherwise take my word for it, but in the scan you can see the blips of energy that she's sensing. The others might be as much as double the distance. Otherwise, it's a ballpark, and I don't care into the specifics right now. But it could be as easy as 1,000 meters away that she's doing quite casually. And in it's not like she's focusing I'm trying to narrow down to a specific person, but instead capturing a whole bunch of people in a wide area across the entirety of the force. Now, another important thing is that Yusuke goes down the middle, and of course fights a demon bat who Genkai was saying, like, this is actually one of the hardest people there. As silly as he looks, this guy would be probably around Goku level, to be honest. If you want to see how much stronger Yusuke has gotten, consider that the demon bat is considered stronger than the baseline of what Genkai assumes for any of these people. Given that she literally was, the huge warning she gave to everyone is stay away from, don't go down the center, there's a demon bat. Or I don't think she says that it's a demon bat, she doesn't tell anybody, but it's like, don't go down the center.
You didn't really think I turned bad, right?
And if we just assume that he's Goku's level, because if you think he's stronger, then this is only more impressive. The thing is he beats him up mega casually, and laughs at the fact that he's like as slow as a snail compared to Hiei. So we know he's much below Hiei. We could say he's like Goku, right? Or maybe he's even as fast as base Hiei, right? We don't have a clear idea, other than Yusuke's gotten a lot stronger. And what's more, we can see that now we get down to the 8 most powerful people left for her tournament, where we will actually get to the tournament section. You can also see some numbers going along with this. So Yusuke, for example, his Ray hitting power is 155, with his Reiki amount being 82. An important thing here is that his first opponent is the guy in the bottom right-hand side, who has a Ray hitting power of 175 to Yusuke's 155, and a Reiki amount of 85 to Yusuke's 82. He beats him in both categories. That is important. Now on to Kuabara to show that it's exactly the same, because we are talking about scaling here. Kuabara faces the guy in the top left. Now Kuabara has better sensing, 15 wins, 0 losses, to the other guy's 13 wins and 2 losses. He's only a little bit better at sensing. His Ray hitting power, however, is 129, with Reiki amount at only 57, compared to the other guy at 138, and Reiki amount of 75. It is clear that our main protagonists are weaker than the people they will be facing. Now, what we know here is they can't see, and sensing is an important part for the battling here. And we go into this seeing the ninja guy, Fuon, who has spiritual abilities above even Yusuke. We see Botan, in fact, explain it, and we can see that we know that Yusuke realizes, like, he's not going to win off of just his Reiki alone. Moving forward, going on to Kuabara's match first, with to the guy who senses nearly as well as him, who hits harder than him, and also has more Reiki, like overall power. Here's the huge thing, that was in punching. That was a punching machine. He beats Kuabara in punching. Well, eventually, Kuabara keeps getting up enough that he gets tired of it, and he brings out Kleiboken, a wooden sword infused with holy water and mixed with like the actual, like, essentially holy energy for removing evil. This thing is set up to be quite the sword. It obviously has vanquished demons and monsters before. Well, when he hits Kuabara with it, he literally breaks it on Kuabara. I wish there was a machine that could test toughness, because as anyone who might follow your show, Kuabara is among the toughest. But shattering this sword on him, we can then see that he can still fight. He can still get up, but he's having a hard time. However, moving forward from there, we know that of course he takes him out, gets his spirit sword, and he actually one-shots the guy with his spirit sword. Again, they were measuring Kuabara's punches, not Kuabara's spirit sword. For him to one-shot the guy, his spirit sword also, like Yusuke's, at a minimum would be a 2 times power increase, and potency above his punches. Honestly, it's quite obvious at this point that it's a 3 times increase. If you don't believe me, if we look at what Yusuke's Spirit Gun has been able to do compared to now, let's cover some of Yusuke's scaling. Now, this guy had terrible sensing just like Yusuke, however beats him in both Reiki and punching force. Thing is that he kind of cheats, right? And he gets it, so he uses a helmet that's completely metal and steel that he can actually sense where Yusuke is. Now he, again, being able to hit harder than Yusuke takes a beating. And this person is a martial arts master, knows exactly what he's doing, hitting full force, and Yusuke takes the hits over and over and over again.
You didn't really think I turned bad, right?
Now, this again shows that maybe part of it plays into the fact that they're the protagonists, so they have to be able to take the hits. Regardless, when you're looking at power scaling, feats are feats. And this guy can concentrate his energy straight into his arm to increase the power behind it. And we see, when that manga actually goes over it, he makes Yusuke like bounce and slide through like the actual floor and such. Again, he overpowers Yusuke's punches, which would be above Goki's by quite a bit at this point, in his base punches. At this point, we are talking about people casually destroying trees with the absolute most minimal of effort, including Yusuke himself, with his Spirit Gun being at least double that, if not triple. Well, would it be triple? Could he take out someone like this in one shot? How about, actually, he hasn't been able to land a real good hit a single time against this guy. And when he finally actually lands a Spirit Gun on the guy, he one-shots him through the metal helmet. This is showing that his Spirit Gun has been amped, and by quite a bit. This is why I would say it comes down to at least 3 times increase. Obviously, it actually should be more, given we're talking about one-shotting someone. To be very clear, one-shotting someone is a separate extra feat. It's not just like, to knock someone down is a statement. To beat someone up is a statement. You know, to be faster than someone means something. But speed blitzing someone isn't merely being faster, and one-shotting someone isn't merely being stronger. It is its own separate thing that suggests a minimum amount. Given that he one-shot somebody who is above him, and through a metal helmet, we can see that a 3 times increase is by far the most lowballed that you could really take it. Now, as we move on, Yusuke, of course, doesn't actually get to have a rest and has no energy going into his battle with Fuwan. So he doesn't even have enough energy to fire a single ray gun. And he just, right off the bat, gets beat the hell out of by Fuwan, who hits about as hard as Kuabara. However, as we can see, even with a little bit of his energy left, when he puts it all into his a singular punch, Fuwan gets scared, and it cuts him open, and he barely escapes. Fuwan is like, no, I'm going to actually keep my distance now. Start using my secret moves where he imbues his, energy into his special shurikens. So how strong are these shurikens? How about within the tips of them is enough explosive force for this? I want to make it clear, this is more explosive force than a hand grenade. Now it is multiples of them. This is more explosive force, 1 for 1, than a hand grenade. And Fuwan tanks it. And I mean, he really does tank it. You see him flying back and he's like, just where did that boy go? Ugh. And he passes out. That was a lie. The boy doesn't pass out. Like, he actually really tanks it. So, of course, they pull him out. And you can see here, like, talking about, Genkai talking about, like, oh, it was his good fortune, because he did get lucky. But he's like, I dare not believe, blah, blah, blah. He's he's still conscious. He tanked a lot of force that I will be calculating more specifically at a different point. However, that leaves Kuabara versus Shuya Shurin? Shurin. Almost went Final Fantasy X there. Shurin. Who, of course, is Rando. Now, the important thing about this is Shurin completely annihilates Kuabara once he gets the chance to use his technique. But the important thing here is Yusuke's a 90 protagonist. And, well, as Shurin says himself, oh, your Reiki mixed with Killer Ki has been increasingly on the raise. Impressive. Yes, he does power up again. Well, how much has he powered up? How about punching him such that Shurin gets knocked many, many meters away with a single punch? Let me make this also very clear. Knocking someone away is a feat, and you can try and calculate minimum force behind it. But people seem to get an idea that people aren't like trying to not be knocked away, that there's a resistance. I don't understand why people don't get this, but him knocking Shurin away multiple meters is vastly more impressive than knocking normal humans away with, you know, a punch or something. Being able to, when he punches Toguro and he can't move him at all, and then his spirit gun carries him through the island and he's still uninjured, that's far, far more than simply like, for example, if you're gonna measure force on where they were moved to, you have to factor in that person's durability and ability to resist being moved at all. Because it's not like he punches Toguro. Toguro doesn't move. Therefore, his punch had zero force, right? So I want to make that clear. Shurin is not a normal human here. Well, he goes on to actually start speed blitzing Shurin, just blow after blow. And Shurin is like, the punching record was 155, but the truth is you've already exceeded 200. So, of course, the low ball. We'll say he's hit 200. This is a huge amount. This is actually quite an insane amount and gives us an idea of the scaling. Because at this point, now his spirit gun would be hitting at like 600 units. Now, this also shows what I'm talking about for exponential. He is not hitting with, say, 155 to 200. Let me calculate that real quick, actually. 200 divided by 155. He did not... This would insinuate that he got merely about a 20% increase in power, since just getting to Shurin from where he was at. The problem, however, is that this is Yusuke on empty. Note, he went straight from one fight, was completely empty of energy, fought Fuon the ninja, was once again won by pure luck, and had once again basically no energy. And went from I have no energy to, with the little bit of energy I've gained from just increasing in anger, now am completely hitting much harder than even the record he had been setting at the beginning of all this, after taking out someone who was already stronger than him. Once more, this is just his punches alone, and is now speed blitzing someone who measured up to be currently the strongest person that they've faced. Now, as we continue, of course, he ends up beating his Shurin persona. But as we know, this is Rando. And Yusuke, once again, he doesn't have any energy. He can't actually do anything. He already had been out of energy. He was using fractions of his energy to output more than what he was capable of at full energy. Right? Fractions of energy turning into many times more force. Or not many times, not multiplicatively here, but it's the fact that it's fractions, so it is multiplicative overall. Fractions of his total energy being able to be put into his punches that comes out with still a decent bit more force than even when he was at full energy is the level of Ampere, which is a huge amount. Now what's more, we can see that when he starts taking on Rando, he starts punching him and it has no effect. And Rando even points out here, your previous attack was your last one, wasn't it? Because you're doing it all without Reiki now. The fact is that without Reiki, just as what was measured, you can't really hit hard enough. Your normal blows just aren't going to be good enough. And this is what I was talking about, measuring it, and where we can actually get accurate ideas of their level of force. And so with this, then we have Rando forming threads from Reiki, and here we'll get some really good scaling. Because remember, Yusuke is vastly out of energy once again, and he's already unlocked the ability to hit even harder than he had last time. This thread survives Yusuke being slammed around like by ridiculous amounts over and over again, and as Rando himself says, it won't break. This is very, very flexible and sturdy Reiki like strings, spider silk, I believe is what he was calling it.
Well, no. Anyway, I better.
And you can also see the ridiculous strength that Rando has, where he casually is just flinging Yusuke around like nothing. But once again, if we want to see more powering up, Yu Hakusho has it. And we can also see here that Kuabara shows his first means of astral projection, something that every person in Yu Hakusho, at least for the main cast, they show it, can do. But he goes on to astral project his soul over to Yusuke, makes fun of Yusuke, Yusuke gets pissed off, and here's the biggest scaling to show exponential power increase. Because if he didn't have energy the first time, such that even fractions of his total energy is even capable of being put behind his blows, and yet he's hitting harder than he ever could before, how about now, where he's once more without any energy, and now with aura alone, no punch, not the air pressure, not a spirit gun, the aura alone breaks him out of something that's so strong and durable that Yusuke physically couldn't break out before, didn't break through the brutal force of Rando tossing him and slamming him repeatedly, fully stretched out, and hitting him through things. With aura alone. I want to make that very clear. Aura is the weakest thing in Yu Hakusho by a landslide, by many, many multitudes. And we see this with, in fact, I'll cover that more specifically as I get towards Toguro. But for now, just keep that in the back of your mind. He breaks through it, and we also see he kills all the demon fish, and we see a massive explosion that erupts the water from aura alone. In which case, we even see Rando saying, did he unravel the Yoki threads? That burst of Reiki couldn't have been his. And he thinks he's used all of his energy again just to escape. Yusuke, this is my real strength. I'll give you all my remaining power in my last punch, as he, once more, is actually on the brink of no energy. And yet the power-up that he got is such that in that little bit, his aura could destroy what I just brought up, and his punch now just completely smashes Rando. Now, why didn't he go as far as when he hit Shuya? Did his punch get weaker? Right? Like, no, that's not how distance works overall. Like, you have to factor in the resistance. So he hits Rando pretty hard, right? Because actually Rando stands right back up, and he's actually okay. Here's another thing to make very clear. Rando's still a D class. That's right, everything we've gone through, from Goki to now, through the multiple folds upon power-up happening repeatedly and consistently over and over again. We are in D class territory still. Rando is fine, beats up Yusuke, and it's through once more sheer luck. Blame the writing if you don't like it, don't care, shrinks himself, and Yusuke is able to take the win out of hacks of Rando is doing it to himself. Anyways, as we can see here, Genkai will be training Yusuke herself. And from here, I think I will end this as part 1, so perhaps this will be broken down into 3 parts, because I want to keep it where you guys aren't taking up hours of your day to watch my videos. Make them more bite-sized, especially after all the debate, like deep diving for accuracy, but those ended up being quite long. So this gets towards the end of Genkai's tournament. So to recap, we have Yusuke as a peak human who is vastly inferior to Goki, the weakest of D classes, who can snap trees and crush trees with minimal effort. To where Yusuke's spirit gun, while amped by a spirit ring, isn't enough to take out Goki, unless he can hit him on his insides through his mouth. To where he powers up many folds more just so he can take out a still base Hiei, only to get outdone again so that he can power up once more so he can still get outdone by a full power Hiei, so that his sucker shot, spirit gun shot, is able to finally take out Hiei. With Kurama's help, of course, blinding him in his Jigan Eye. He then goes on to, after being that many multiple folds times stronger and then getting stronger again and again, goes on to face a person stronger than himself. In which case, now we see that Spirit Gun scales at least 3 times in power, being able to one-shot a person stronger than himself and through pure, metal helmets and that guy's Reiki defense. If you want to see about Reiki defense, you will see it in part 2, where he faces Suzaku and how Reiki functions as a defense in Yu Hakusho and how that works. Now, going from that thing, we see that he is now at 0 energy, and with Rando talking about your blows need to actually have Reiki energy in them for you to actually be able to have force, that your force goes into you having energy behind your punches. Yusuke with no energy, meaning he's at fractions upon fractions of that force that he can actually bring out. Say he only has 10% of his energy. Say he has 20% of his energy left. Let's use 20%, really highball it here. He still has a whole 1/5 of his total energy left. He's not totally exhausted. He was. That means that him going to over 200 in power for his strikes, let's say he just matched with his own 155. He's hitting with 1/5 of his total Reiki energy that he can put behind his punch. He's hitting with 20% of the power that he could actually put behind that number, meaning that's at least a 5 times increase, except he hit over 200 on it. This is why I'm saying it goes into exponential increases. This isn't even just basic multipliers, because we can see that it gets many folds times stronger. This would, realistically, even if you say 10%, which I feel is still quite a fair take, we would see our first magnitude increase, just straight for numbers and feats shown. Let alone him being able to catch someone on Hiei's level, and him, it verbatim being stated that he increased by magnitudes over, many folds over, basically meaning the same thing. But then him backing it up, as I've already covered the Hiei fight. Followed by him taking out Rando with great showings, mind you, to where him getting pissed off once again is able to break out of something that I'm not sure even Rando would have been able to destroy without a spear gun or a special technique, mind you. With just his aura alone, where you see it destroy the demon fish and blow up a huge amount of water for this level of Yu Hakusho, right? We started with peak human Yusuke. So going forward, we will cover past him getting trained by Genkai, Saint Beast and such, and then I think I will do this to 3 parts, because then we have the Rescue Yukina arc. Then I'll do the Dark Tournament. So hopefully you enjoy this video. Hopefully you start seeing the baselines here for how much stronger Yu Hakusho gets in a very short period of time. And if you want the numbers for it, trust, I will be coming with those. That'll be done after I've done this baseline scaling. because that is something that will take your focus, and I want to always make sure that I'm as accurate as possible, and I don't want to screw it up, and I want it to be as accurate that you guys can, of course, trust what I'm saying, which again is why I use lowballing. So, enough rambling from me. Have a good day, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, you know I respond to every comment, almost every comment, and peace.